could just do it that way.
You see,
Let me take a look. I didn't.
Oh, he's fantastic.
I will promote him now.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Already? Well, that moved us along. Can't get mine to work, but I want to share.
You were able to
You're on
get it.
here. I can't get my computer to compute.
All right. He's here.
Okay, well, Chris Miller's on with us.
Okay.
And so at the worst, we can,
Fix it. I'm just trying to
I'm not sure where you guys are in the meeting, but I haven't, it's been dead air on this end. I have not heard a thing. So my apologies.
Training is enough to cover that, to cover those increases.
And then for the second credit, the $10,000 credit, for the Fire Training Academy, are there going to be additional fees and costs that we'll need to handle since we didn't participate in the Fire Training Academy with the consortium?
At this time, no, right, we require all of our firefighters to come to us with the firefighter training ahead of time. So when we advertise for firefighter positions, they're required to have their firefighter training already, their IFSAC certifications. That's what the training academy provides. So that's why we're able to get a credit, because we won't be using those services. The only other piece is if we do decide to do a volunteer academy ourselves, that might be separate, but we were going to have to do that anyway on our own, because that's not the training for the volunteers isn't part of the consortium. So if we do end up doing our own academy, it'd be probably a combination of Fall City with Fall City, some of the other departments, and it would be covered with on-duty staff.
Chief Carrera and Chief Bailey. My question is this, since many of your mutual aid calls are with departments from here to Duval, what kind of impact would that have, or is there another kind of overlapping plan as to how to address that? Because there's going to be some coordination, I assume, as you tend to the same fires together. How does that work into the whole training scheme, I guess, for the lack of another word? Scheme sounds kind of sketchy.
I believe, I don't know if we can hear Chief, Chief yet, but I can address that. So the benefit of the consortium is that we do get to train with our partners. Fall City is joining. There still is a question about Duval at this point. They've gone back and forth. But the way the training consortium is set up is we're going to use cover engines for some of it, where, say, for example, you have North Bend, Fall City, and Snoqualmie all need the training. All three departments wouldn't go at the same time. We would use, maybe we use a cover engine from each side to cover our station while we go to the training. The other way we've talked about covering some of the training so that they can train together is through overtime, which is part of our current overtime budget. And we have overtime as it is right now for covering for different training. So say, for example, we might hire back 3 personnel to run an engine while the on-duty crew goes to the training with Fall City, with North Bend at the training consortium. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Yeah, I had a follow-up to Councilmember Christensen's first question. In paying for this, I understand that the budget that you guys have figured out, the budget will cover this. Is it going to deplete in any way any other training or any other anything else that we would otherwise have done?
No, we're not taking away from any other programs that we wouldn't be. We're not cutting any other programs to fund this. We've looked at it, and there's a way to make it all fit within our current budget with the offsets of having the training officer down there for the credits that he's going to be spending down there. He'll have plenty of, he'll be balanced between what he's going to be doing in the city versus what he's doing down there. But the credits that we're getting for the offset, it's going to be able to cover the budget, the expected cost of it.
The other, it seems to me that when Chief Carrera was talking about this in the past, there was an alternative plan, and then that plan disappeared, and then we're going to this plan. Are we doing this because it's the best possible plan, or because it's the only plan, or is it both things to look at it on the bright side?
I would say it's a combination of both things. The original plan we were looking at, we needed to do some kind of a consortium. We wanted to train with our partners. The one we were looking at was with Eastside, Kirkland, Bothell, and then possibly Fall City and Snoqualmie. Originally, we weren't ready to jump on that one because it was brand new and starting out, and we wanted to give it a chance to kind of go for a year or so to make sure that it was going to work for our needs. So that's why we were kind of pumping the brakes a little bit on that one. It looked like it was coming together, and then the last second it fell apart. So that's why we transitioned back to the South County one, which honestly it's established. It's been there for many years. It runs a well-oiled machine, and honestly, I think it's going to be better training for us in the meantime. The overall goal would be down the road is hopefully there's going to be a training consortium that covers all of King County. We're talking years down the road. But having us pivot back to South County, I believe the firefighters are behind it. They're going to get good quality training, if not better than what we were going to get the other way. And I think the main thing is just that it's established. They have established policies, practices, calendars. And so we have the benefit of going back to there and not having to recreate the wheel, if you would, about having to start one on our own. So I do think it's kind of weird how we got around back to the South County one, because originally we left because of some of the travel costs and things like that. But being able to partner again with Eastside and Fall City with the South Consortium, I think it's going to be a benefit for us.
Any further questions? So in that case, our council is comfortable with moving this forward to the city council agenda?
Did you say consent?
Yes. All right, thank you. In that case, The next item on the agenda is the discussion point that was added by Councilor Walton.
Thank you. Give me just a moment. please. So first of all, my precursory comments. There was this opportunity through Sound Cities Association to have a representative on the regional law, safety, and justice, which I know nothing about. And I figured, well, there's a great way of learning about what I don't know. So I applied, and to my surprise, I was appointed. So I'm going to need a lot of input from this committee, and especially the two chiefs, or the chiefs and captain. But I think the one concern that's there is the minimum sentencing guidelines, and that there's going to be legislation in Olympia in the coming month and a half. And I think that, especially being a rural community, I've heard from people. I happen to have somebody that I know walking to my office carrying a bicycle frame. And the point is this: the person was arrested, went to one of the jails, and was released within hours. And the responding officer said, well, they're not supposed to be out so soon. And I guess that we need a little deeper dive on, what is a potential threat to the community and what's not, and taking a look at the minimum sentencing to make sure that people that can do harm are properly dealt with. And the other issue too is the capacity of our jails is limited the way it is now. So, I guess that's kind of the ongoing discussion for us is, what do we need to address? And we're going to ask for the chief and the captain's input as much as possible, that we can come up with, our response and pass that on to the legislature. Mayor, I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to add. Pull up your article.
You pull up the article?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things that's going for legislation this year. And it's been pursued, it has to be a late fix. I'm not sure what deadlines are.
Want me to come up with it?
Please.
I thank you for putting in for that. And we're excited about the fact that you have been selected to be on that, because the sentencing is very important, obviously. But a reality is, we touched it, is there's no place to keep them. So in reality, they're going to be let loose because there's just no beds. And so that's a big part of what the legislation going forward has to address as well. Because you can have sentencing fixed, if you will, but if there's no place to put them, they're going to be out. So it's a two-pronged approach as far as that goes. You're going to have both sentencing looked at, and you're going to have the ability to keep them in custody built. And also, I'm working with Representative Bill Ramos, who called, and I met with today regarding another issue to the legislator on the police academy regionalization, and how they're going to have how to attend without being hired. So there's other things that are being worked on with the legislation.
So if I may, Chief, so there's really about 4 different issues. There is, first of all, minimum sentencing. Secondly, is jail space. Third one is the pursuit.
Yes.
And it's just absolutely ridiculous what policing is limited to. I got a chance to spend some time with Nigel a few months ago, and he was explaining it. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy when you have to chase them down the freeway and then put out spikes to get them to leave their car. It's crazy. We've got to change that. And then the other one is the retail thefts that are going on. And throwing fentanyl. And the list just continues to grow. I mean, it's like, I guess the thing that we need some help on is, tell us the priorities of which one we need to address first. And then, kind of what's the sensible solution that we need to be advocating for each of those.
We can surely help you with that, but it's pretty simple. We have to start recognizing victims and not people that are perpetrating the crime. What this did is we have more victims out there, and I don't think the victims have had a voice. And so people are starting to become aware of that right now. People are starting to say what the ramifications are of the legislation that was done 2 years ago. I think most of the law enforcement realized that was going to be the case. But now here we are today, where even if we are able to arrest them, we take them to jail, they don't stay in jail. I know for a fact, we have one gentleman in the last year, he's been arrested. I think he's been arrested 45 times. He's been arrested 45 times. And he's still out there. Those are things that have to be looked into. And that's in our community, right here.
I would say you mentioned we need to prioritize them, but actually I think all of these are coming before legislature this year. So you're right, figure out which one's most important to our community, but I think all of them are.
And then it was my understanding, so the document with the sentencing guidelines, that's already been put forth in recommendation based on what was done last calendar year, correct?
I'm still trying to get up to speed.
Okay.
So any help and guidance would be greatly appreciated.
We need some kind of like 46 strikes and you're out policy or something.
Maybe like 25. All right, wonderful. Is this, and then Councilor Watton, is this an item that you would like to include as a discussion item for every public safety meeting, for once a month? What are you envisioning at this point in time? It looks like the Regional Law, Safety, and Justice Committee is going to meet 7 times over the next calendar year.
I think that's a good discussion that we can have between now and our next meeting, and maybe some metrics. We've already, the police department has already started putting together some metrics, and maybe we can look at more, ongoing monitoring of those things. The chief bringing up the 45 incidents on one person. I mean, it comes back to resources again. We've heard about it on a couple of our communities within Snoqualmie where there's been repeated complaints or calls, and it takes services away. So the more that we can track those and try to figure out, okay, what's really eating up the resources, and that we can minimize it so they can spend more time doing the other things that we need. I'm always surprised when a police car comes down my street, because I know there are 100 streets they could be going down and trying to cover everything that's happening. It's just not possible.
I wouldn't want to criticize the police. I mean, we do need to keep an eye on you, but maybe that's the reason why they're out. Yeah, this is, I think that if this was at least a monthly discussion item, that makes the most sense. I mean, because if we're not, this is, in my opinion, the most important committee there is. We can't safeguard the people of the city, then what the heck are we here for? So I think that if this was a monthly discussion item, I think that would be really time well
how soon the agenda comes out for it, but that might be a good thing to, at that point, upcoming meeting to review that agenda and get input from our officers.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, sometimes those things come out a few days beforehand, so we'll do our best and we can meet in between if needed and then come back and report on where things are at. But certainly the police department needs to have allowed input.
And I'm sure that the fire department is also encountering stuff related to law enforcement as well. So if they have insight into drugs in the community, things like that, that I think would be also really important for us to hear.
Thank you. With that, I think the one other item that we had was I had just asked the chiefs to provide an update as to the impacts from the storm and what additional measures were employed during that time. So I don't know if you would like to speak first. And pass it here from many of you. Chief Carrera, I think it's you.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm going to share my screen. I put together a little presentation that shows incident counts and things like that. Can you guys hear me okay?
Chief Carrera, we cannot hear you at this time.
I think he just moved his lips.
Let's try to sort that out.
Jimmy's messing.
Try to get Chief.
Can you hear me now?
No.
It's showing it. I was using this earlier and it was.
We can't hear you again, Chief.
We'll go ahead and
Yeah.
go first, that
Apologies.
way.
Yep.
we can-
Police are gonna go, then we'll try and solve it.
Jimmy, there's always something over here that they always turn up underneath there. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, that's actually the,
Name box. It's money.
Bailey, you can't read lips.
I was responding on a lot of the calls, so I could give you a rundown, but he has a lot better, he did a lot more.
Can you hear me now?
So at the beginning of this weather incident on Sunday, December 18th, when the snow came, the patrol officers that were working in that afternoon, I'm sure you guys saw the photographs online of the cars that were abandoned on the parkway. That snow went from 0 to 60 really quick. The city was out there, as soon as we called them to say we're losing control of it, they got out there, the public works got out there to do their best. But at the time, we had officers that were out on the parkway for about 4 hours, trying to get people out of their cars that were stuck. Some abandoned their cars and walked. We had a 7-car reportable accident on the parkway from that incident. But the miraculous part about this is for the rest of the week, through the ice and through the wind and the additional snow, that was the only reportable accident that the Snoqualmie Police Department took. So that was not to say that there were numerous cars that were abandoned, ones that were in the ditch that we found unoccupied. People didn't call to report any damage to those, so those go unreported for motor vehicle accidents. We did respond in the city of Snoqualmie to 17 dispatched traffic hazards. Those ranged from the Sunday, the 18th to the 23rd. So that encompassed the snow, that encompassed the freezing rain and the ice and then the wind. Those were power lines down. Those were trees in the roadway, closing roads that were impassable. At the same time, in North Bend, I don't know what this says about their driving abilities, but we did go to 8 reportable accidents in North Bend, and then 15 traffic hazards in that city during the same period of time. The impacts that the police department itself felt was that we, like many other residents, were out of power, no internet and no phones at our police station for an extended period of time. We were told that there was a switch that went bad that allows the network closet at the station to have all of our computers and the hard drives. That switch failed, which means the air conditioner didn't come on when the department went to backup power, causing it to overheat. So our officers went for a couple of days in the middle of the week without computers, without phones at the station, no internet. They were taking reports, by hand and having to go back later on and enter them into the in-house record system historically. I would like to give a shout out to the guys that worked for this week, both day shift and night shift. Through this whole thing, we had 0 hours of missed time where people couldn't get to the station. They all came in, including on Friday when we had the ice and trees down. When I found out that Melinda in the front office was there, and I was shocked. And I'm like, well, you have no power, you have no phone. She's like, I came in to work. So the dedication that those guys all showed during this event, I'm only giving you a snippet of these numbers, but we went to calls all through that time. We tried our best to limit during the peak of the events to having guys out on the road. They could take calls by phone. They were doing that. Cold theft calls, things that could be handled by phone to keep the danger down for the officers. We did that. But there were in progress calls that no matter what, we went. And it happened in North Bend, but I'll let you know, but the night that the ice rolled in on the 22nd, right in the middle of that, we got a major crimes call out in North Bend. And I was able to find 2 detectives that were willing to drive a distance into town to assist us in a sexual assault investigation. Could not have been a worse time for having something like that, but the dedication that those guys showed, it should be recognized. So basically, that's all I have for you now. That was the impact that we had. We did go with the fire department with the EOC that they set up during the week. We were getting updates from Chief Carrera regularly, and I was contacting the duty sergeants, from home. So I got real-time updates as well. So that was our experience through the week.
If we can't hear him, he said he had a presentation that he might be able to bring up on the screen, and I can talk through it. We'll see what Chief, can you come up on the screen or your camera? I don't believe your camera. There you go. Your camera's on now. Well, no. We can't hear you. Do you want me to call on my cell phone or? I don't know.
I'll hear feedback.
I can call on the cell phone, and I can put it up to the mic, or he can put his presentation on, and I can try and speak.
There we go.
Hey, Mike, can you hear me?
Yeah, they can hear you on my cell phone, Chief.
Okay, let me just turn my volume down on my computer. Alrighty, sorry about all the confusion or the problems here. Everybody on Zoom can hear me, but I don't think I can. So this shouldn't take too long. I just put together this quick presentation. And as Captain Lynch indicated, we saw similar incident types and similar incident spikes as law enforcement did as well. There was a Fraser outflow that came in on the 18th and dropped in well below freezing temperatures. Then we had a snow event followed by rain and freezing rain. And then we had a wind event soon thereafter. And what I read on the news was a 56-mile-an-hour gust at Mount Si High School, which is quite remarkable. We normally have 25 to 35 mile an hour winds or gusts, but that was pretty high, and that led to vegetation collapsing on transmission lines, trees being out, and at one point, as you can tell by the picture on the background here, this was the outage map for PSE that showed most of the power out to the region. North Bend lost it at about 5:30, followed by Snoqualmie at about 8:10-ish, and it was out for over 24 hours. And I know there was concern back to the 2007 event that led to power being out for multiple days, in fact, multiple weeks. So once we got through the wind, the freezing and the warming caused once we started warming up, we had a lot of pipes started to thaw and burst. We received multiple calls for people not being aware how to turn off their water in their houses, a lot of new residents or people that just couldn't get their water shut off. And then we also lost backup power to one of the water system pump stations, which led to, before this, the mayor had declared a disaster and executed a disaster declaration that allows the emergency management world to do certain things, like execute contracts and get additional help in as needed. And we did actually have to use that, from what I understand, talking with the public works director and the utility department, to bring additional power to that pump station. Throughout the event, though, the EOC, Emergency Operations Center, remained at level 2, which is partial activation. We were monitoring, as well as at different times we had different services in there. At one point we were doing some logistics, but most of it was information and warning and monitoring the event. This is a snapshot of the incident types from the 18th through the 28th. As you can see, we had a spike on the 23rd, between the 22nd and the 24th. Ironically, this was even one of our firefighters was an acting officer, and it was his first acting officer shift, the 22nd through the 24th. So he got many opportunities to hone his skills by responding to incidents. We went to a total of almost 100 incidents, 94 incidents over that time frame, which is about 7.8 incidents per day, and our normal average is about 3, so it's almost twice. Actually, it's around 4. 71 of those incidents were in Snoqualmie, and we gave mutual aid 23 times and received mutual aid 36 times. I was looking at the incident counts, and the majority of the incidents that we gave and similarly that we received were multi-incident responses. So incidents that we don't normally respond to ourselves, like an aid call, we'll normally handle that ourselves. But a car wreck or an automatic fire alarm or smoke in a building, we responded to 3 structure fires as well during that time. A 4th was smoke in the building. One of the structure fires came in as smoke coming out of the wall at Smoky Joe's. Fortunately, we saved that building. Again, you guys may not be aware of this, but that building used to be 2 stories tall, and the second floor burned off of it many, many years ago. They saved Smoky Joe's during that event. A lot of the incidents for car wrecks, as Captain Lynch indicated, a lot of them are outside of the area. A lot of them, we went to one up on Tokol, we went to a whole bunch of them on the freeway. In fact, that's what that picture is on the bottom. There's a freeway incident that had a multiple car pileup just outside of North Bend. One of 3 cardiac arrests, and then a whole bunch of flooding and service calls that had to do with the pipes bursting, and then also people needing help turning off their water. This is just fire department responses. This doesn't include people that got a hold of the water utility directly, and we had to send out city staff to handle those as well. And this is just a heat map of the area. We have the ability now to generate some heat maps off of our radar system that we use, so I just thought I would put it together. This is a heat map for that time frame that shows obviously that hot spot up in Snoqualmie Ridge, as well as some hot spots down here on the freeway, and then also downtown as well. And with that, I can certainly take any questions that the group may have.
Chief, can you talk Just a little bit more about the heat map. Is that just providing the locations where the calls were directed to?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I heard that you wanted me to talk about the heat map, but I didn't get the second part.
Yeah, sorry, I was just asking for some additional clarification for the purposes of the heat map. Is it identifying the locations where the calls for service were taking place geographically? Is that what that is? Okay.
Yep, that is correct. That is the mapping of all the incidents and where they occurred. It's not by it's just where the incident itself originated, and then by that call during that time frame. So it was for that entire week or 10 days that I marched out the 18th to the 29th. You know, honestly, if we were to overlay that map on a daily thing, and I can certainly provide that another 10-day example or even a 30-day example, you'd probably see similar trends with our heat map. And we've had this conversation with previous administrations, and I'll share with you as well. When you look at that map, it certainly tells a story about where our fire station should probably be, and how where, although geographically in the middle between downtown and the ridge, it actually makes more sense for the fire station to be closer to the ridge, closer to where the police station is, or someplace up towards the top there. So we've had this discussion, and Mayor Ross is aware of it. She was part of our accreditation hearing when we discussed it a couple of years ago. That it's more of a master planning item to keep on the radar down the road. It's not something we expect to fix immediately.
I appreciate the update from the departments. You've all done a fantastic job, the administration included, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of just how much you were doing while those were locked in and not out. So thank you all. Huge effort. With that, I don't think that we have any further items on the agenda.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?